Modern Ethiopia is an important nation on the African continent. Renowned for being the only African nation to avoid European colonization, it stands alone in this regard. The current moniker of Ethiopia was one adopted by Emperor Haile Selassie after the Second World War during a unified Africa's move toward independence. However, this landlocked landmass in the Horn of Africa has historically gone by various names and consisted of multiple independent cultural identities spanning across very organic boundaries, most recently known as Abyssinia and before then as Aksum. The population consists of numerous ethnic groups such as the Amhara, the Tigray, the Ago, the Harari, the Afar, the Sidama, the Gurage, the Omo, the Oromo, and the Abere, to name a few, who have all held alternating levels of prominence at different periods throughout the region's very complex history. However, Ethiopians of today are not necessarily the Ethiopians of yesterday, at least not in the strictest sense of the word. It is very important to understand when reading old texts that make reference to Ethiopia, they are speaking of a wider African people spanning the interior of Africa, from the southeast to west of modern-day Egypt. Medieval maps detailing the territory of the Ethiopians expanding throughout the African continent demonstrate a vast ethnographic group. Further to this, many maps show that the Great Ocean to the west of Africa, commonly referred to as the Atlantic Ocean, was acknowledged historically as the Ethiopian Ocean and later its southern portion as the Ethiopic Sea. This further substantiating the universal application of the term Ethiopian for inhabitants of Africa's interior, and not just a few ethnicities on the east of Africa. In fact, one of Europe's oldest civilizations, the Greeks, were in constant contact with the vast Ethiopian Empire and were, in fact, the creators of the term itself. The name Ethiopia is a compound of etho, meaning I burn, and ops, meaning face. Derived from the Greek word Ethiops, it translates to burnt face in noun form, and as such it was given to the people deemed to bear the closest cultural and geographic vicinity with the sun, according to Homer's Iliad, having darkened visages from their proximity to that luminary, the sun. The Ethiopians led a blissful existence because living amid a flood of light, and as a natural concomitant of a blissful existence, they were blameless and pure and free from every kind of moral defilement. Ethiopians were renowned as the dark-skinned first men of earth. Throughout antiquity, it was known as the land of the gods, with many prominent global deities being local derivatives of the original African gods. Many ancient historians revered interior Africa as the birthplace of spirituality. Numerous characters in Greek literature and mythology were regarded as Ethiopians. These include, but are not restricted to, Andromeda, who is widely regarded as one of the most beautiful women in Greek mythology. She was the daughter of the Ethiopian king Cepheus and Queen Cassiopeia. There is also Memnon, great hero of the Trojan War, who was king of Ethiopia and son of Tithonus and Eos. Also, and perhaps surprisingly to some, one of the titles of Zeus was Zeus Ethiops, which literally translates to Zeus the black-faced, suggesting that to some ancient Greeks at least, the king of the gods and ruler of Mount Olympus may have physically resembled people in the interior of Africa. Although the very thought of this might cause a stir in our modern racially charged society, in antiquity it was largely routine given Africa's designation as a major spiritual and ontological epicenter. So as modern Ethiopia and surrounding nations continue to evolve on the African continent, it's important to remember that historical Ethiopia and the Ethiopians of antiquity were a continent-wide representation of Africa's global presence and influence in history. Thank you for joining me on The King's Monologue, a place where we are undeterred in our pursuit for historical truth by challenging centuries of Eurocentric ideology that has falsified the global worldview. Thanks to my entire Patreon family, with special thanks to my production team. With the generosity of my community, I'm able to produce these research documentaries with greater frequency, So do consider supporting me on Patreon or by purchasing merchandise. And browse the channel to enjoy more of my research. And obviously, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to The King's Monologue so you don't miss out on further reconstructions, commentaries, reactions, shorts and documentaries.